Imagine surviving like a grueling 4-hour mental marathon. You've brilliantly outmaneuvered your opponent, you've navigated all these complex tactical traps, and checkmate is just, well, it's one move away.
Right.
And then suddenly you are completely disqualified. And why? Because a spam call made your mobile phone vibrate in your jacket pocket.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds absolutely absurd to the casual player.
It really does. Welcome to the deep dive, by the way. I'm so glad you're joining us today.
Thanks. But yeah, in the realm of professional play, that vibrating phone is treated with the exact same severity as a physical attack.
Because it's not just a game at that level, right? I mean, when you first learn chess, there is this comforting illusion that once you understand how the pieces move, you understand the game, you learn the geometry, you know the basics, and you think you're ready.
Exactly, yeah. You think you've got it figured out.
But today, our mission is to really look past the gambits and the checkmates. We're diving into the official FIDE Laws of Chess, specifically the rules adopted at the 2008 Dresden Congress to uncover this hidden ecosystem of high-stakes competitive play.
And it is intense.
It is. We're looking at a rule book so precise and so incredibly rigid that the psychological warfare begins before you even touch a piece.
It's a brilliantly constructed, highly stressful environment, honestly. The FIDE laws, they don't just govern the 64 squares. They govern the human body, the passage of time, and really the complete behavioral environment of the player sitting at the table.
Okay, let's unpack this.
Yeah.
Because I want to start with the physical weight of making a move. Before we can even talk about grand strategy or winning the game, we have to talk about the sheer physical commitment required to interact with the board.
You're referring to Article 4 of the FIDE laws, the touch move rule.
Yes.
And if you're listening to this and wondering why on earth the rule book needs to regulate how skin touches wood, you really have to look at the psychology of decision-making.
Right.
Like in a casual game at a coffee shop, you might grab a knight, hover it over a square, realize it's a terrible mistake, and then just pull it back.
Yeah, we've all done that.
Exactly. That is a cognitive safety net. But FIDE entirely outlaws that.
The moment you deliberately touch one of your own pieces on the board, your decision is, mathematically bound. If that piece has a legal move, you must move it, period.
Yep.
And it's even more intense if you touch the opponent's piece, right? Because you must capture it if it's legally possible to do so.
Right. By removing that safety net, the rulebook basically forces the player to finalize their calculation completely in their head before reality reflects it. The physical touch is the point of no return.
There is one tiny loophole, though, the Jadug rule.
Yes.
If a piece is just, sitting off-center on its square and you just want to straighten it out, you can adjust it without being forced to move it.
But the timing of your intent is critical here.
How so?
Well, Article 4.2 states you must express your intention before touching the piece. So you have to clearly say je double or I adjust.
Ah, I see.
If your finger makes contact and then you hastily say I adjust as an excuse because you suddenly realize your move was a blunder.
The arbiter's not going to buy it.
Exactly. The arbiter will not accept it. You must move the piece.
Which introduces this incredible quirk when we look at castling, because castling is the only time you move two pieces in a single turn, your king and your rook.
Right.
The rules mandate you must touch the king first or the king and the rook at the exact same time. If you deliberately touch the rook first, you lose the right to castle on that side for that entire move. You just signaled a standard rook move.
Because castling is fundamentally defined in the laws as a move of the king. The rook is simply joining the maneuver.
Wait, hold on. What if my hand reaches out, right, and I grab the king and the rook simultaneously with the absolute intention to castle? But in that split second, I suddenly realize my king has to cross a square controlled by, a sniper bishop.
Oh, an illegal castle.
Right? Castling is illegal in that position. Am I just doomed to lose because I'm holding two pieces and can't complete the move?
Well, what's fascinating here is that the framers of the rules actually anticipated that exact panic.
Indeed did.
Yeah, under Article 4.4.c, if you touch the king and rook intending to castle, but the move is illegal, the touch move rule defaults back to the most important piece. You are forced to make a different legal move with the king.
Wow. And what if my king is completely boxed in and literally cannot move?
Then the touch move requirement is entirely voided.
Wait, really?
Yeah. If the king has no legal moves, the slate is wiped clean for that turn. You are completely free to make any legal move with any other piece on the board.
That is such a specific failsafe. And you see that same level of microscopic precision applied to promoting a pawn.
Oh, absolutely.
When your pawn reaches the opposite end of the board, you trade it for a queen, rook, bishop, or knight. But the choice isn't considered finalized until the new piece physically touches the promotion square.
Right. The physical contact.
Yeah, you can literally take your pawn off the board, hold the new queen in your hand, hover it, and technically your choice is only locked in the millisecond. The base of that queen makes contact with the board.
The laws of chess constantly anchor abstract thought to physical reality. It's a very demanding sensory experience.
And once you actually let go of the piece, you aren't done. Now you're fighting the machinery of the game, you've survived the anxiety of the touch, and immediately you face the dual tyrannies of the physical clock and the mandatory paperwork.
Yeah, the clock is treated almost as a sacred object under Article 6.
It really is.
Once your move is complete on the board, you must stop your clock and start your opponent's clock. But the physical choreography is strictly mandated. You must press the button with the same hand you used to make your move.
Which feels completely unnatural if you're trying to move quickly. Like, if I move a piece on the left side of the board with my left hand, but the clock is on my right, my instinct is to hit the clock with my right hand simultaneously.
And that is exactly what the rule is designed to prevent. If players could use two hands, they would keep one hand hovering permanently over the clock button, just shaving fractions of a second off every single move.
Oh, I get it.
The physical journey of the hand from the piece across the board to the clock is actually a mandated part of the time allotted for your turn.
It requires an incredibly stoic physical etiquette. I mean, the rules explicitly forbid punching the clock forcibly, picking it up, or hovering your finger over the button waiting for your opponent to move. You just have to sit there calmly while your time bleeds away.
And while you are managing this strict physical dance with the pieces and the clock, you are simultaneously acting as your own court stenographer.
Which is just wild to me. Under Article 8, standard tournament play requires you to write down every single move you and your opponent make, move after move, in algebraic notation.
Yeah.
You're literally acting as a clerk, charting every NF3 in the 0-0 in real time.
And just like the touch move rule, there is no cognitive safety net here either. You absolutely cannot write the move down in advance.
Right. If you're listening to this and thinking, like, why on earth would anyone care if I write my move down 5 seconds before I make it? It's because writing it down first is essentially an external memory aid.
Exactly.
It allows you to visualize the board state on paper before committing to it. FIDE forbids that. You have to move, then write. But trying to do this when both players have like 30 seconds left to live on the clock seems physically impossible.
And the FIDE framers recognize that limit of human multitasking under extreme stress. That's why Article 8.4 introduces the 5-minute rule.
Okay, what is that?
If a player has less than 5 minutes left on their clock, and assuming they don't have a 30-second increment being added per move, they are entirely excused from keeping score.
So they can just drop the pen and fight for survival.
Exactly. They just focus on the board until a flag falls, indicating someone has run out of time.
But think about the logistics of a blitz finish. If both players drop their pens and they are just slapping the clock moving at lightning speed, I mean, how on earth do they know what just happened?
It's chaos.
When the dust settles and the game ends, how do you verify the final position or check if someone missed a subtle check 3 moves ago?
That is where the larger environment of the tournament steps in. The arbiter, the official referee, or an assistant should try to step in and keep score for them as they play.
But arbiters are managing dozens of games in a large hall. They can't be everywhere at once. What if no official was standing there watching the flurry of moves?
Then it becomes an archaeological dig.
Really?
Oh yeah. Once a flag is fallen, the arbiter stops the clocks. If there is no complete score sheet available, the players must literally reconstruct the game on a second chessboard.
Oh, wow.
Under the control of the arbiter, they retrace their steps from the last known recorded position on their sheets until they catch up to the present moment.
That is intense. And when you force humans to perform under that dual tyranny of physical precision and ticking time, mental fatigue sets in. And where there is fatigue, there is chaos.
Inevitably.
So let's look at how the rulebook handles a player whose brain just short circuits. Because FIDE has incredibly strict rules for penalizing chaos.
We turn to Article 7 regarding irregularities, specifically illegal moves. Imagine a player is so exhausted they accidentally move their bishop like a knight, or they fail to notice their king is in check, and they confidently hit the clock.
The rulebook says you have to rewind the game. The position immediately before the illegal move is reinstated, but the penalty is brutal.
Very.
For the first 2 illegal moves a player makes, the arbiter awards their opponent 2 extra minutes of thinking time on the clock for each offense.
And in a tight game, handing your opponent 2 free minutes is an eternity, is a massive swing in competitive advantage.
But the third illegal move by the same player is the death blow. The arbiter declares the game instantly lost for the offending player. 3 strikes, and you are out.
There is a minor caveat, though. If the opponent mathematically cannot checkmate you with the pieces they have left, it's a draw. But realistically, a third illegal move is an instant loss. And beyond just moving the pieces incorrectly, we have to look at Article 12, which governs the conduct of the players.
Right.
You cannot distract or annoy the opponent in any manner. You cannot unreasonably offer draws. You cannot even leave the playing venue without explicit permission from the arbiter.
Which brings us back to that massive hook we started with, the mobile phone rule, Article 12.3b.
Yes.
If you have a mobile phone in the playing venue, it must be completely switched off. If your mobile phone simply produces a sound, any sound, you instantly lose the game, losing a 4-hour mental marathon just because you got a spam call.
Well, this raises an important question about why the modern game requires such draconian measures. Like, why is the penalty so absolute?
Because it's not just about a ringtone breaking someone's concentration, right?
Precisely. The rules are enforcing an entirely sterile environment. We live in the era of powerful chess engines like Stockfish, which can run on a standard smartphone and calculate moves better than the greatest human grandmasters in history. A smartphone is no longer just a distraction. It is a weapon.
So a single vibration in your pocket might not be a text from your mom. It could theoretically be a coded signal from an accomplice watching the broadcast telling you that your current position requires a pawn sacrifice.
Exactly. The instant loss rule prevents not just distraction, but any possibility, or even the appearance of a possibility of electronic assistance. Total quarantine for the mind is the only way to ensure the integrity of the match.
Let's say you've survived all of this. You've kept your phone off, you haven't made an illegal move, you managed the clock perfectly, but you look at the board and realize you have hit a wall. You cannot win. FIDE has highly specific mechanisms for when a game mathematically fizzles out.
The art of the draw. A draw isn't always just 2 players shaking hands and agreeing to stop. There are structural mathematical limits built into the laws under Articles 5 and 9.
Right, there's stalemate, where the player whose turn it is isn't in check, but they have absolutely 0 legal moves left to make. That's an immediate draw. There's a dead position, where neither player has enough material to actually deliver a checkmate, like a king and a single knight against a king. But then the rules get into the highly technical draws based on repetition and lack of progress.
Yeah, the game is drawn if the exact same position appears on the board 3 times. And the position must be perfectly identical, meaning the same player is to move, and all possible move rights, like castling or en passant, are exactly the same.
Sure.
Or it's a draw if 50 consecutive moves have passed for each player without a single pawn being moved and without a single piece being captured.
So what does this all mean? It means chess isn't just about winning or destroying your opponent's king. It's about mathematically proving your opponent is wasting your time.
Essentially, yes.
If they can't break your defenses or force a material change in 50 moves, the law dictates they don't get to keep torturing you forever.
And we see that philosophy applied to the quick play finish under Article 10.
Oh, right.
If you have less than 2 minutes left on your clock, and your opponent is just like shuffling pieces aimlessly, clearly making no real effort to win on the board, but just trying to make your clock run out,
Yeah.
you can actually summon the arbiter. You can formally claim a draw based on the opponent making no effort to win by normal means.
But you can't just shout it out. The bureaucracy required to claim these technical draws is breathtaking. To claim a draw by 3-fold repetition or the 50-move rule, you cannot just make your move, hit the clock, and declare it.
Right, the procedure is vital. You have to write your intended move in your score sheet, leave the physical piece untouched on the board, stop the clocks, and declare your intention to the arbiter before executing the move.
You are essentially submitting a legal brief to the referee stating that your next action will trigger the mathematical condition for a draw.
Yes.
If you succumb to muscle memory and touch the piece first, you forfeit the right to claim the draw on that move.
It's unforgiving. And this absolute rigidity really makes you wonder what happens when the physical realities of the players or the board have to change.
Right.
Because the appendices of the FIDE laws reveal how the game adapts for accessibility and entirely new variations without losing its core logic.
Appendix E is fascinating for this. It covers rules for play with blind and visually handicapped players. The environment is heavily modified. In these games, they actually use two separate boards. The sighted player uses a normal board, but the visually handicapped player uses a specially constructed tactile board.
Yeah, the black squares are slightly raised. Every square features a securing aperture, a small hole, and every piece is fitted with a peg.
Ah, makes sense.
This ensures the pieces aren't knocked over while the player is using their hands to read the board state.
Which completely changes the touch move rule. For the visually handicapped player, simply feeling the piece doesn't commit them to moving it. A piece is only considered touched under the rules when it is literally pulled out of the securing aperture.
Furthermore, the communication relies entirely on verbal announcements.
Oh, right.
To avoid any phonetic ambiguity between letters like B, C, D, or E, the players use a mandated German alphabet system.
Right, so the files are called out as Anna, Bella, Caesar, David, Eva, Felix, Gustav, and Hector. And the ranks use German numbers. Even castling is announced in German.
Rochade and Kurze
Exactly. Longe Rochade for long castling and Kurze Rochade for short. It transforms the silent visual geometry of chess into this deeply auditory and tactile experience.
Then we look at Appendix F, which introduces a variation that scrambles the geometry entirely. Chess 960, also known as Fischer random.
In Chess 960, the pawns start on their normal squares, but the mighty pieces on the back rank are completely randomized before the game begins.
Yep.
So the traditional opening theory that grandmasters study for decades is instantly rendered useless. But from a rules perspective, explaining how castling works in Chess 960 is just mind-bending.
Because the king and the rook might start right next to each other, or on complete opposite ends of the board. The traditional physical journey of castling just doesn't apply. So the rulebook simplifies this by focusing purely on the destination.
Right. In standard chess, the king moves two squares and the rook hops over. In Chess 960, the rule is simply that regardless of where they start, the king and the rook must magically end up on their standard castled squares.
Exactly.
Sometimes that means only the king moves. Sometimes only the rook moves. And if they happen to randomly start on their final castling squares, neither of them moves at all to complete the castle.
It perfectly highlights how the laws can flex to accommodate creative variations.
It's like waking up in your own house, but while you were asleep, someone rearranged all the doors and windows. You know the furniture, you know what the pieces do, but the geometry is totally alien. You try to walk to the kitchen and end up in a closet.
Speaking of environments changing, what happens when a game simply goes on too long? The physical venue has to close for the night, and play must be paused.
We turn to the guidelines for adjourned games. This feels like an artifact from an analog spy movie, the drama of the sealed envelope.
Right, so when the time limit for the playing session is reached, the arbiter instructs the player whose turn it is to seal their move. The player does not make the move on the physical board.
Okay.
Instead, they secretly write their intended move on their score sheet in unambiguous notation.
They take their score sheet and their opponent's score sheet, put them inside a physical envelope, seal it shut with glue, and then they stop their clock.
Yes, and the envelope is inscribed with crucial data, the players' names, the exact position of the pieces, the times on the clocks, and the number of the move. The arbiter takes custody of the envelope until the next day.
Imagine the exhaustion. You have been playing for 7 hours, your brain is melting, you have to write down this secret move, but here is the lethal catch. If you seal your envelope and the move you wrote down is ambiguous or impossible to understand, or if you accidentally wrote down an illegal square, you automatically lose the game when that envelope is open the next morning.
Article 8, Guideline 8, explicitly states the game is lost by a player whose recording of the sealed move is ambiguous.
It's like defusing a bomb in slow motion. You're exhausted, you accidentally write down the wrong letter for the square, you lick the envelope, hand it to the arbiter, go sleep for 8 hours, and wake up, walk into the tournament hall, only to watch the arbiter open the envelope and disqualify you in front of everyone.
Well, if we connect this to the bigger picture, the sealed envelope is a masterpiece of analog game design. By forcing the player to commit the move to paper in secret, it preserves the tension perfectly.
It really does.
It prevents any possibility of consultation. Neither player can go back to their hotel room and run the active board state through a chess engine because the board state is locked in the envelope. The opponent doesn't know the move, and the sealer can't change it.
It is brilliant, paranoid, and beautiful all at once.
Oh.
So, mapping our journey through the 2008 FIDE Laws of Chess, we've uncovered the intense psychological pressure of the touch move rule, where physical contact binds your fate. We've navigated the dual tyrannies of the physical clock and the algebraic scoresheet. We explored how mental fatigue breeds chaos, leading to time penalties, instant losses, and the absolute quarantine of the mobile phone rule.
The sterile environment.
Exactly. We saw the bureaucratic precision required to mathematically prove a draw, the tactile adaptations for blind players, the geometric scramble of Chess 960, and finally, the analog perfection of the sealed envelope. And overseeing every single second of this is the arbiter, outlined in Article 13, the silent guardian who observes, penalizes, and ensures the ecosystem survives.
Which brings us to a final, really crucial point found right at the beginning of our sources, in the FID preface.
Oh, right.
The preface explicitly states that the laws cannot cover all possible situations. It humbly admits that complex human cases will arise that aren't precisely regulated. Because of this, the entire rulebook explicitly relies on the necessary competence, sound judgment, and absolute objectivity of human arbiters. Too detailed a rule, the framers argue, might actually deprive the arbiter of finding a solution dictated by fairness and logic.
I love that. A 30-page, hyper-precise rulebook admitting its own limits.
It leaves you with a provocative thought, you know? As chess moves increasingly to digital screens, online platforms, and automated moderation where code decides everything instantly,
Yeah.
what happens to that human element? What happens to the subtle, empathetic judgment of intent, fairness, and sportsmanship that this incredibly detailed rulebook so deeply relies upon? Can a digital algorithm ever truly replace the sound judgment of the human arbiter standing at the table?
That is definitely something to cue on the next time you log on to play a quick online match. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. Hopefully the next time you open a board game rulebook, you'll look at the seemingly boring lists of regulations a little differently and realize that beneath the geometry of how the pieces move, there is a whole hidden world of psychological warfare. Keep learning, and we'll see you next time.